I used to think if I worked hard enough, everything else would fall into place. I built houses, ran a crew, kept food on the table. I didn't take vacations, didn't waste time talking, just kept going. And then one day I looked around, and there was no one left. My wife was gone. My kids didn't call. The phone stayed quiet. That's what this story's about. I started working when I was 15, first with my uncle's crew, then on my own. Over time, I built a small business, poured 100 driveways, framed a few dozen houses, and even built 3 from the ground up. I liked the feeling of knowing what came next. Measure twice, cut once. Tools had names, tasks had steps. It made sense to me. The rhythm of work, the dust in the air, the ache in my back at the end of the day. That felt like a kind of success. I didn't have time to question much. As long as my hands were busy, I figured I was doing something right. My days started early, 5, sometimes earlier. Coffee in a travel mug, boots on by the time most folks were still asleep. I liked being the first one on site. Gave me a head start. 60-hour weeks were normal, sometimes more. I wore exhaustion like a badge of honor. If I was tired, I'd earned it. I didn't waste time. Lunch was fast, conversations were short, and weekends were for catching up on the things that didn't get done during the week. I believed if I kept going, kept producing, everything else would just sort itself out. When I got married, I saw it like building a house. Provide the materials, keep the structure solid, and everything should stand. I didn't know much about feelings, and honestly, I didn't think I needed to. I brought home a paycheck, I fixed the plumbing, I showed up to the mortgage. That, to me, was love. I wasn't cruel, I wasn't distant on purpose. I just figured if the lights stayed on and the roof didn't leak, I was doing my job. I didn't ask what she needed. I didn't think I had to. Looking back, maybe that was the problem. There were little signs, I guess. Missed birthdays, dinners eaten in silence. She'd mention things, softly, like she didn't want to start a fight. And I'd brush it off. "I'm tired," I'd say, or "We'll do something next weekend." But weekends always had a leak, a bill, or a job site calling. I thought I was doing it for them, for the family. I didn't see that what they wanted wasn't more things, it was more of me. But I didn't know how to give that, so I kept showing up with money and disappearing with time. They were good kids, loud when they were little, always wanting me to play or look at some drawing they made. I'd pat their heads and say, "Later." Later turned into never, and one day they just stopped asking. They got older, found their own lives. I'd tell myself that's just how kids are. They grow up, they get busy. But the truth is, I wasn't there when it counted. I missed their games, skipped their parent-teacher nights, forgot their favorite shows. Now, I text and get short replies, or none at all. We used to have people over on Sundays, neighbors, friends from the crew, sometimes family. Burgers on the grill, football on in the background. That faded over time. People stopped showing up. I figured they were busy too, or that I was just getting older. But I think it was more than that. I didn't reach out, didn't call anyone just to check in. If they didn't call me, I didn't call them. I told myself I didn't need it. Truth was, I didn't know how to ask for company without a reason, and so Sundays just got quiet. I was always building something. Decks, sheds, cabinets, fences. Even when I didn't need to, I just liked the doing. There was comfort in wood and metal. You hit a nail, it goes in. You follow the blueprint, it stands up. People aren't like that. You can't fix silence with a socket wrench. I'd feel the tension in the house, but instead of talking, I'd go outside and find something to work on. I told myself I was being useful. But what I was really doing was hiding from her, from the kids, from myself. I used to tell myself, they knew I loved them. That was the line I leaned on any time I felt the distance. I didn't say it often. I wasn't raised that way. My old man didn't say it much either. But I figured if I showed up, paid the bills, fixed the broken stuff, that counted. I thought love was something you proved, not something you had to repeat out loud. And maybe they did know, deep down. But knowing and feeling aren't always the same thing. I never asked how they were doing, never said I missed them. I assumed we were all fine, just busy. Looking back, I wonder how many moments I let pass, all because I believed the work was speaking for me. At some point, her chair at the dinner table stayed empty more nights than not. I'd come home late, warm up whatever was in the fridge, and eat by myself. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured she was upstairs reading or went out with friends. But it became a pattern. That chair, it was a reminder, quiet but clear. I still didn't ask questions, didn't want to rock the boat. And honestly, part of me didn't want to hear the answer. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that things would go back to normal. But deep down, I think I knew. You can't ignore a cold room forever. Eventually, you have to ask why it got that way. Even as things at home grew quieter, I kept moving. If I wasn't on a job, I was fixing something in the garage or checking on a rental property. Stillness made me nervous. When I stopped working, I started thinking, and I didn't like where my thoughts went. So I filled the silence with motion. Projects gave me purpose. They made me feel needed. But they also gave me an excuse not to look too closely at what was happening inside my own house. It's easier to fix a broken step than a broken conversation. So I stayed busy, convinced that forward motion was the same as moving forward. It wasn't. She didn't yell. There wasn't some big fight. One day she just said she was done, and that was that. She left the papers on the counter, packed her things, and went. The dog stayed with me, though. Funny how quiet the house got after that. You notice things, how loud a clock ticks, how much fur a dog leaves behind. I kept waiting for it to hit me like a hammer, but it didn't. It came slower. Like a draft you don't notice until you're cold. I wasn't angry. I was hollow. Like I'd been staring at a blueprint for years, and only now realized I'd been building the wrong house. I built one more house after she left, a big one, beautiful views, wrap-around porch. Took me nearly a year, and when I finished, I just stood there. Empty rooms, no furniture, no one to walk through the door. It was the best thing I'd ever built, and it meant nothing. I didn't even try to sell it at first. I'd just go out there some evenings, sit on the steps, and wonder what I'd been doing all these years. What good is building something if no one's inside to live in it with you? I thought about all the energy I poured into places and how little I poured into people. I didn't plan to retire. I thought I'd keep going till I couldn't. But the calls slowed down. My back started acting up. Young guys took over the work I used to hustle for. One morning I realized I hadn't booked a job in 6 months. That's how it ended. Not with a decision, but with silence. I always thought I'd hate retirement, but truth is, I never thought about it at all. I'd spent so long being needed that I didn't know who I was without someone waiting on me to show up. And now? Now I had time. More time than I ever thought I'd have, but no idea what to do with it. One night I finished dinner and stood up to wash my plate. Just habit, rinse, dry, stack. That's when it hit me. I hadn't said a word to anyone all day. Not a single hello, not a sentence. Just me, the dog, and the hum of the fridge. It was a different kind of silence than I was used to. On the job site, silence meant something was wrong. Out here, it was just the background noise of my life. I used to complain about needing peace and quiet. Careful what you wish for. I stood there in the kitchen, plate in hand, and felt something rattle loose inside me. Not grief exactly, just emptiness with no name. Father's Day came and went. I sat in my chair with my phone on the armrest, charged and waiting. I told myself I didn't care, told myself they were busy, had their own lives. But I kept glancing at that screen like it might light up out of guilt. Nothing. I waited until bedtime, then turned the phone face down and went to brush my teeth. It's strange how a little silence from the people you love can feel louder than a jackhammer. I didn't want gifts or speeches, just a call, just a, "Hey, Dad," and it never came. That silence said more than words ever could. I kept trying to defend myself, to no one, really, just in my head. I'd think, I wasn't a bad man. I didn't cheat, I didn't yell or hit. I worked hard, I put food on the table. That used to be enough. But now I wonder, was I just absent in a quieter way? I was there, technically, but I was always tired, always somewhere else in my head. And when they needed more of me, not just what I could provide, I didn't know how to give it. I thought being dependable was love. But love also means noticing, slowing down. I missed that memo. There are nights when I sit on the couch and just listen to my dog breathe, that soft rhythm in and out. It's comforting. He doesn't expect conversation, doesn't judge, just lies there, loyal as ever. And sometimes I realize, this is the closest I've been to someone all day. It's not that I don't want closeness, I just forgot how. I used to know how to laugh with people, ask how they're doing and actually mean it. Now I second-guess everything. Every word feels rusty. So I stay quiet. The dog doesn't mind, but part of me knows that's not how I want to spend the rest of my life. I finally called my oldest boy. Took me 2 days just to work up to it. My hand shook a little, pressing his name. When he picked up, my mouth went dry. I started with the weather, couldn't think of anything better. Told him it might rain. He said, "Huh." Not much more. I tried to ask about work, but my words came out thin, like paper. He answered, polite, short. After a few minutes I said, "Well, okay," and he said, "Yeah, okay," and then it was over. I sat there with the phone in my lap, wondering if that counted as connection, or just two people fumbling in the dark. I called again a few days later, tried to apologize, not for one thing, but for the weight of it all. He cut me off, said, "Don't worry about it, Dad." And I could hear the wall in his voice, not anger, not forgiveness either, just distance. I told myself it was better than yelling. At least we were talking. But part of me wished he had said more, even if it was hard. That phrase, "Don't worry about it," stuck with me. I've said it myself 1,000 times, usually when I didn't know how to handle something. Now, I wonder if he learned that from me. I found out Mark had passed on Facebook, scrolled right past it at first, then doubled back. No one called, no text, just a memorial post and a picture of him holding a fish. I hadn't seen him in years, but we used to be close, worked the same sites, watched football together. I showed up to the service, stood near the back, didn't say much. His kids didn't recognize me. I sat through the eulogies, thinking about how many of us drift away from each other. Not from fights, but from silence, from never picking up the phone. I left the funeral and promised myself I wouldn't let it happen again. Still working on that. I used to think therapy was for other people, people who didn't know how to handle life. I handled things, built things. I didn't whine, I worked. But one day, I booked a session. Just once, I told myself. I sat in that waiting room feeling like a fraud in a flannel shirt. Magazines I didn't care about, a ticking clock, and this tight feeling in my chest. I almost walked out, but something made me stay. And when I finally sat down across from that therapist, young guy, soft voice, I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing for a while, and he didn't push, just waited. That was new, being heard before I even spoke. After that first session, the memories started poking through. Not big dramatic ones, just little things. My wife stirring pasta while I scrolled through invoices, my daughter standing in the doorway wanting to talk, and me saying, "Can it wait?" Dinners where I was there, but not really. I thought I was doing everything right, paying the bills, keeping the lights on. But now those moments jab at me like splinters under the skin. I didn't notice them then. Now I can't stop feeling them. Small sighs I ignored, eyes that looked away and never came back. Regret doesn't hit you all at once. It's not a tidal wave. It's a slow, relentless tide. I'll be driving or brushing my teeth and suddenly I remember something I said or didn't say. Moments where I should have stayed, should have asked one more question, should have said, "I love you," even if it felt awkward. It's the little exits that get you. The 1,000 quiet times I chose work or pride or distraction over connection. I used to think regret was weakness. Now I see it's just a kind of mourning for the chances you didn't know were chances until they were gone. I used to tell myself I just did what I knew, and the truth is, I didn't know how to love out loud. I wasn't taught that. My dad didn't do heart-to-hearts. He worked, he drank his coffee, he fixed the roof. That's what I learned. Be useful, be tough, keep it in. No one ever showed me how to open up, how to sit with someone else's pain without trying to patch it. So I didn't. I provided, I built, I shut up and carried on. But that doesn't build closeness. That builds walls. And I lived behind those walls for a long, long time. I remember the first time I said, "I'm sorry," without a but. No defense, no backstory, just sorry. It was to my daughter. I told her I missed things, that I wished I'd done better. Her eyes didn't soften, not right away. But something in me did. For the first time, I didn't apologize to fix something. I apologized because it needed to be said. For her. For me. I don't know if it changed how she sees me, but it changed how I see myself. That kind of honesty, it's heavy, but it's also the start of something lighter. I used to wait. For holidays, for birthdays, for them to reach out first, like love had to be earned or scheduled. Now I just call. Even if the call is short, even if it's a little awkward, I say hi, I ask how they're doing. I don't expect a parade. I just want them to know I'm here, that I'm trying. The silence used to feel safe, familiar, but now it just feels like time slipping by. So I call first, because waiting to be wanted is no way to live. I'm learning not everything needs fixing, that when someone shares something hard, they don't always want advice. They want space. I used to jump in with solutions. That's what I knew. Fix it, patch it, move on. Now I try to sit with the words, let them land, even if there's silence after, especially then. Listening isn't passive, it's work, but it's the kind of work that builds something real. I don't always get it right, but I show up. I stay quiet a little longer, and sometimes that's enough. There's this old co-worker of mine, Frank. We weren't close back in the day, just shared lunch breaks and small talk on site. Ran into him at the hardware store last year and he said, "We should grab coffee sometime." I almost said sure, just to be polite. But then I thought, Why not? First Tuesday felt stiff. We talked about weather and knees and who's had what surgery. But we kept going. Every week now. Same diner, same booth. It's not deep. We don't spill our guts. But there's something about showing up again and again that starts to feel like trust. Like maybe friendship's not gone, just slower than it used to be. Most nights, it's just me and the dog. But somewhere along the way, I started setting 2 places at the table. Just out of habit at first, I told myself, then maybe out of hope. I cook a little more than I need, put some in a container just in case one of the kids drops by. They usually don't, but still, I light the second candle, put out the second fork. It's a small gesture, maybe even a silly one, but it reminds me to stay open, to keep room in my life for company, even if it's not here yet. When I was younger, I gripped everything too tight. Tools, steering wheels, my own damn pride. I didn't know how to let go. Thought strength meant holding on. But lately, I've noticed my hands have changed, not just from age, from effort, from learning to open up. I catch myself resting my hands instead of clenching them. I hold my dog gently now. I reach for my kids without bracing for rejection. That softness, I never thought I'd say this, feels more powerful than anything I ever built. It means I'm not trying to control everything anymore. Just be present. I'm not the granddad who builds tree houses or tells big stories around the fire. I missed the start of their lives, honestly. Didn't know how to step in. But now I call. I read them stories over the phone, kids' books with voices and sound effects, even if I feel dumb doing it. Sometimes they talk over me. Sometimes they just giggle. But they know my voice now. When I call, they don't ask, "Who is it?" They say, "Hi, Grandpa." That matters more than I expected. Not being perfect, just being there. I've started asking people that. What do you need? Not, here's what I think. Not, you should. Just, how can I help? It felt strange at first, like speaking a new language. I used to lead with answers, instructions, solutions. But that question, it makes space for the other person. It tells them I'm listening. It tells them I'm not here to be the expert, just someone who cares. I wish I'd learned it sooner. But I'm saying it now, and the responses, even when they're quiet, are starting to change things between us. My son moved apartments last month. He asked if I could help. 10 years ago, I would have shown up early, taken charge, probably barked orders. This time, I just carried boxes, waited for direction, stayed quiet unless he spoke first. We didn't talk much, but we moved together. There was something good in that. I didn't need to fix anything. I didn't need to be in control. I just needed to be there. And for once, being there felt like enough. Like maybe this is how you rebuild. Not all at once, but one quiet act of presence at a time. I used to pull into my driveway, close the garage before the engine even stopped. Never said more than a nod to the folks next door. Thought I was too tired, too busy, or maybe just didn't see the point. Now, I linger out front. Water the lawn slower than I need to, and I talk. I know their dogs' names, their kids' birthdays. I know that Mark, 2 houses down, just lost his job, and that Linda across the street is worried about her mom's memory. These little chats, they aren't much, but they remind me I'm not as alone as I thought. There's community here if I make room for it. You just have to show up, even if it's only to talk about the weather or swap dog treats over the fence. Sometimes I catch myself staring out the window, thinking about the man I used to be. 40, full of drive, proud of how much I could carry on my shoulders, but blind to what I was putting down to carry all that. If I could talk to that man now, I wouldn't yell, I wouldn't shame him. I'd just sit with him a minute. Let him feel safe enough to admit he was scared too. I'd tell him it's okay to put the hammer down sometimes. That being needed isn't the same as being loved. I say it out loud now sometimes. I'd give anything to talk to my 40-year-old self. And when I do, it's not bitterness I feel, it's grief and grace, and the hope that maybe someone else might hear it and listen a little sooner than I did. This house, I built most of it myself. Every corner square, every beam solid. The deck out back has weathered better than most people. But when the lights are low and the dog's curled up at my feet, it hits me. It's not the roof you remember. It's who was under it with you. I chased stability, success, security, and I got all of it. But none of it hugs you back. None of it says, I missed you. What I miss most now isn't what I didn't build. It's what I didn't slow down to feel. These days, I'm still building, but not walls, not houses. I'm building moments, connections, and maybe, if I keep showing up, I'll still have time to fill this place with warmth that lasts longer than the wood I nailed down. Before you go, if any part of this story hit close to home, maybe reminded you of a person, a moment, a silence that lasted too long, I hope you'll stick around. Subscribe if you want more stories that go a little deeper. Like the video if it gave you something to think about. And if you've got the time, leave a comment. I read them. They matter. Let me ask you something. Have you ever realized, too late, that you were building the wrong things? And if you could talk to your younger self, what would you say? I'm listening, and maybe someone else out there needs